8 years before he got his second store. And then it was like 15 years, he had like 30 stores, and now they have multiple. And this really related to me because my career, I started very poorly where I got fired from my first varsity job. And then through a lot of hard work, we started to have winning seasons, but I was having a big stumbling block. But then we'll talk a little bit about what he calls the flywheel, where the momentum goes. Because in my last 14 years, after really struggling in the postseason tournament, we made the semifinals, which is the final four or better, for 14 straight years. We made the finals 8 of those 14 years and won 6 titles. So I had that flywheel effect as well. So I really related to the book because he gives some athletic stories and certainly a lot of it's mainly a business story from a background. But the one thing Colin says, because I've listened to the audio book many times, is he talks about that he really believes that what they learned from this study are things that are transferable in any type of leadership, whether it be doing a nonprofit or an athletic team to a business. And I agree. So, we're going to delve into some components of that today.
And for everybody to understand what is the flywheel concept and also those 7 keys, I will just share the screen a little bit. So we have a better idea. Can everybody see this screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So here, according to Jim Collins' book, he talked about those 7 different keys or 6 keys. But because of time constraint, we are just going to talk about 4, which is the level 5 leadership, the 2 first who, then what, the hedgehog concept, and the culture of discipline. And as a CEO, it's not just enough to be a CEO of an organization. I can get all those papers done and then pay like around $700 or something like that. And I have an organization and I can call myself a CEO. But to be a CEO, to be a leader, you need something extra. And the other people has to call you and respect you as a CEO. Unless or until you are in that position, you cannot call yourself a leader. So that's why level 5 leadership is and I will ask Coach to talk a little bit more about the level 5 leadership, but I found it's so important why we should go from good to great. Olympic medalists, like, is it gold medal is gold medal, then you have the silver medal, then you have first you have the bronze, then you have the silver, and then you have the gold. So everybody is capable to be that leader, but how do you go from that silver to gold? So it's not everybody has to be great, but there are certain positions, certain roles in which you have to thrive to be the great. And that is what this book talks about in good to great process. So Coach, and if anybody would like to chime in, I would like to ask you, like, where do you see yourself right now? In which position within that good to great? How do you see yourself?
Well, I think it's been a long process. Right now, I would, at the end of my career, and certainly because I continue to be a student of leadership, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I've attributed a lot of the level 5, which Collins is interesting. In the book, he talks about that with his research team, they kept bringing up that leadership was important. And although he believed it was important, he didn't think it was something that they should put in the book. Well, as it turned out, the facts were the facts. And through the research, that there were some consistent qualities of these level 5 leaderships of the 11 companies that they ended up being good to great. And the 2 that really jumped out to me, they can be a little bit contrarian, but when done together are really powerful. And the first one is they had great drive and pride to do anything they could to help their team, or their business be successful. So they had great drive, they had great resilience. In fact, they called it the Stockdale Paradox after a commanding officer that was in Vietnam, and what they learned from him as far as his resilience of a mindset of the belief that, because Stockdale told him it wasn't optimism. Optimism, a lot of those people that were in the prison camp in Vietnam died because they kept thinking next month they're going to be out. What he believed was resilience, that you just had to keep doing it and keep in the mind that yes, there's a belief that you're going to get from good to great, or in his case, get out of prison, but there was no exact definition. The other part that was really fascinating to me was the combination of drive to be great, but also humility. And I want to share a pretty powerful story in the book. It was about one of the good to great companies, Gillette. They had a leader named Coleman Mockler that was what they considered a level 5 leader. And when Gillette started to have this momentum and started to get some real fascination from the news media, he was actually going to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. And it was shown like he was like on the king of a mountain in a king suit. And it so made him distraught. It's actually a very sad story. He actually died of a heart attack after he saw the cover that was supposed to come out for, I believe, was Forbes magazine. So that really, I mean, as sad as that story was about what happened to Coleman Mockler, I think there's a really valid point in the fact that he did not want to be in the limelight, that he was always thinking about how I could help the team and surrounding himself with the good people, which we'll get into that concept in a little bit. So those were the two things that really jumped out. There is more information about level 5, but the real keys is having the drive to be the best, but also being humble that you're not the success is not because of you as the leader. And those were the two things that really jumped out to me about level 5.
And you're so right, Coach. The humility is so important. That is the level 5 leadership, which we can see even everywhere. So in our politics also, we have seen lack of humility, what it does to a president. So we have seen it firsthand. And the Kodak, we were talking because we are here in Rochester, we can see that Kodak was a great company, but how did it shift? It did not stay in that position. I think there was that ego also, that we won't compromise whatever we are doing. That is what we will do. We won't compromise. The lack of innovation, lack of R&D that was going on, and they did not follow the trend. And that is why they fell from that grace. So to all the other participants, I would, if you have anything to add on, why do you think that companies do not stay great? What are some areas or aspects which can just push the company from being great to good and then to worse, and they cannot sustain? And as Coach was saying, that they do not keep that flywheel, that momentum going on to go to that greatness. Anybody have any output, any feedback on that? Like why companies, what are some reasons why companies don't stay great?
Well, from a media perspective, which is what I study, what I've found is that companies go from great back to good when they no longer provide anything new, when they no longer provide a unique service that nobody else can provide. And we see that a lot when other streaming services come up, and all of a sudden, cable TV is less relevant. And when you don't provide that unique service that nobody else can provide, all of a sudden you aren't at that great stage anymore.
That's such a great point, Jonathan, because everybody and every company and every individual have that some unique skill. And I think Coach will be discussing it in the Hedgehog concept. So that unique thing gives you that shift. So when you are not banking on that uniqueness, that is when you can step down. Anyone else? Anyone else have any inputs on that? How companies, what are some reasons why companies do not stay great?
I can share a quick thought.
Please.
Thank you, Coach, for your initial those examples and ideas from the book. Not that I remember, I haven't had the chance to read the book recently, but I remember, although vaguely, that uh, charismatic leadership has not been given much credit, and rightly so. In my training in Bangladesh and abroad, often people approach and how do I become a charismatic leader?
Mm.
And I just know general people, and they want to go for the style as opposed to the substance. You see,
Mm.
as you mentioned. So even a research, I think that was published in 2000, I think, by University of Pennsylvania, has um, a research called Authentic Happiness Team or something. And some of you may know there was this research project that tried to find out what makes human human. Let's say all the qualities that make human human, and they found out, I think, 24. But this, in summary, the two stood out, and the conclusion was if people were spending more time reflecting on them, developing those two, then the other qualities they will acquire. And these two were, surprisingly, I think, in a way similar. I find this first is the courage. That means I can relate to what Coach said. Courage to believe that I can be the best, or from good to great. And the other one, a direct hit, bullseye, humility was the other one. Completely different research, but coming to very similar or same conclusions.
Mm.
Right.
Excellent.
So I give many examples of negative charismatic leaders. There are positive charismatic leaders like Gandhi, for example.
Right.
But then there's suddenly Hitler is another great charismatic. I never call him a leader. I have a lot of fights with my participants where I say, no. He could draw the attention. People could die for him. Why would you not call him a leader? And I say, okay, let's talk about values. Who should be a leader? Where is he taking us?
Right.
Or and so on. So I'll not make it a class for you guys. But I was drawn to charismatic leadership. But then now, in the recent, for the last decade, I guess, I would rather shun it. And I tell them, you want me to charismatic? I can be charismatic immediately, but that's all pretense.
Right.
So that's
And
yeah.
as Kazi sir has pointed out, and just for my American counterparts, in our culture, in Bangladeshi culture, when you have your faculty or somebody, although we are colleagues now, but I still, with respect, I would call him Kazi sir. So usually we call our teachers sir.
Cultural.
So that's the natural thing. But one thing that we have also found out, even the book also talks about Leo Iacocca's Chrysler, the organization, where Iacocca, so I think Leo Iacocca, he was
Ayacuca, yeah.
Iacocca, he was more into like all those flashes, like this is what I am, like write a book on me and all those things. So when Chrysler was in the top, which was a great organization, but it was not able to compete with the Japanese and German car industries, but still he did not compromise with his flashes. So he did not compromise, he did not go for R&D, and then he had to fall down from his grace. So while there are organizations like Teach for America, the leader, if you meet her, she is like the most gentle, most humble. Even if she enters a room, nobody will even see who is entering. But what she has done, she has now started this Teach for Bangladesh, Teach for America, all these branches all over, and you can see the impact that organization is making. So that is not charismatic, but a leadership with values and with a cause. So I think this book also talks about that cause. What cause are you believing in? So that also matter. And then who are the people who will believe in your cause? So Coach, I'm just jumping into that idea, like the culture of discipline, where he talks about discipline of people, discipline of thought, discipline of action. What was your take on why people are important for our organization? Often the top level executives or the CEO, they do not invest enough on the people or take their ideas or even hire the right people. So what is your thought on that?
I think it's essential, and it's something I know that I did not do early in my career very well. And that was, I was enamored more with guys. Obviously, I was a basketball coach. So I was enamored with their talent more than some of the other things, which I think is really important as leaders, that you have clarity of the type of people that you want on your team. Jim Collins, the author, talks about getting the right people on the bus.
Mhm.
And the very intriguing thing is that having a cause, having a vision, they feel are very important. But the most important thing they found through the research, and I found through my success and later in my career, is getting the right people first. And when you get the right people, they are more willing to buy into your vision, the cause, and they'll fight for it and they'll stay with it. So the two things that they really talked about was getting the right people, having clarity of the type of people they wanted that were going to be important. Like they give one example of the steel company, Nucor, that they talked about that it was really important that they found people that had a really, really strong work ethic. And those people prospered in their organization because that was so important to them. And people that didn't have a good work ethic did not last. And there was a lot of peer pressure that those people would leave pretty quickly if they didn't realize that this wasn't for them. Because what they found is after they got the right people, then the second phase was getting the right people in the right positions. And that was one of the things that Collins shared a lot is the CEOs took over these companies that they really often when they would make changes in the direction of the company, which we're going to get into Hedgehog a little bit, is they would still make sure their best people, they would keep them, but maybe put them in a different area to help in the direction they wanted to go with the company. Like he gives an illustration of a guy that was basically second in charge that was running all the America. Well, they found that they wanted to become more of a global company. So their global presence was very small, but he put this one of his vice presidents that he knew was a high quality guy to be in charge of that. And then their global presence exploded because he had the right person in the right position. So I think the last thing I'll say about this is when I became much more clear of the type of people that I wanted on my team, it just helped us explode with more success. And I'll share those. Talent was certainly part of that, but the three key pegs for us of the stool was we wanted people that had great desire, that they were teachable, coachable, they wanted to get better. Two, that we wanted people that were humble. We already talked about that they could handle both winning and losing on an even keel. And the third thing is we wanted what we called we over me people, team people that were going to put the team first. And when we got those type of people consistently on our team, our program exploded in a real positive direction. So I think it's just so essential that as much as a leader, you need to have a vision and a cause, that you really got to focus on getting the right people on the bus.
Yeah, and Coach, it's an interesting point. The book also talks about the CEOs when they were doing the study with 1,400 companies, and then they chose 11 great companies. Most of the companies that were sustainable had leader who always talked about we instead of I. But
Yes.
the companies that had those leaders, they were more into I. So they counted how many times they say, I have done this, I made this change instead of we. So when the top leadership is talking about we, that is the energy and synergy that is being created. And from a Bangladeshi context, choosing the right people. In our country, there is a nepotism idea. So always trying to, like, I know that person, so let me hire those individual, or my uncle's son, or this and that. When we are doing that, we are weakening the organization. So if you are a true leader who is looking for greatness, you have to avoid the nepotism. So you have to choose the right people with the right skill. And I am blessed in a way to say that in my Heroes for All, the 10 executive members I have, they are all self-managed and self-directed. I don't have to tell them what to do. They know that they see a problem, and then they come up with the ideas, and we discuss and we execute. So even when I'm not 6 months not in Bangladesh, the self-directed team, they are managing all those things in Bangladesh. And each one of them, they know what they're good at. One of them are good at writing. One of them is good at PR. One of them is into media and all those kind of things, CFO, finance. So I had to identify if somebody is not doing well in one aspect, then I have to shift that person to the other role that matches him or her. So as a CEO, as a leader, also you have to sometimes even shift people. And sometimes, sadly, but we also need to make that hard decision to fire people. That is also, I think, part of a good leader. Like if he or she is not being able to train, if you even give them the scope and still it's not working, then I think the best thing is to fire. So there, I think there is this person, there is this quote in the book that it is like, you also have to know how to hire slow and fire fast. So that was one quote in the book. So try to understand what role you have created in your organization, and then match those things with the right people, and then fire fast. If it's not matching, or then you need to make that decision. Anybody have any take on that area? Anyone would like to share?
Thank you for the wisdom. This is great. I love it.
Thanks, Jackie. Mr. Pender, because you mentioned that you have implemented some of the things that you read in the book. What are the things that you thought that worked when you were in the company, when you are running the company?
So the most effective things that I found, I've been, working in the blue collar world and the white collar side of things over the course of the last 35 years now. And the biggest thing that I have found, based on the notes and the things that I've learned from reading the book, is investing in the people. You find out who the team members are, especially when you come into a team that already exists. You find out about those people. There's 3 questions that everybody is going to ask of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you care for me? Can I trust you? And will you help me? Those questions came from John Maxwell, not me, but I've learned a ton by utilizing those questions and realizing that I too am utilizing those questions when I have interactions with people. So when you can answer those 3 questions honestly, wholeheartedly, and you want to lean in, as I say, you are in the trenches and you want to serve. Lee Iacocca, going to him and what he had done with Chrysler and Ford over his time, there were some great things that I took away from his book. As probably the first book over 500 pages that I had ever read in my reading career, and there were some great takeaways in there, and I had implemented some of those things that he had implemented. And one of those pieces, it all goes back to the folks that we're surrounding ourselves with. What's going to be different about you or your company a year from now? What are the 2 biggest variables? The books variables in there, the books that you read and the people you surround yourself with. So we have to be, as leaders, we have to continuously want and have that drive to learn. We're just naturally wired that way, typically. And then other people see that. We share the books that we read. We share our thoughts and ideas. We get around the table and we ask good questions, well thought out, open-ended questions that require some thought for the other side, the participant with you at that table, to provide value and provide solutions. There's something to be said for that engagement. When you shift your thought process to how you ask the questions and then what you're looking for on the other side of that, it just opens up the communication substantially. And then when people see that they have the ability to share and that somebody is going to take the things that are being shared and get those up on the whiteboard and take that from problem solution to execution, it makes for an incredible win for everybody.
Thank you. Wonderfully said. And asking the right questions and asking question, I think that is one of the most important aspect of a leadership. What right questions are you asking? And the book also talks about it. And another book I think everybody should read, John Maxwell's Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I think that's also an amazing book that gives you like what questions to ask to your team, to yourself. So moving forward, thank you so much.
Rehnuma, I
Yes,
actually
please.
want to comment one thing. Art thinks it was some great information, but I know Art and I have talked, and Rehnuma, you just brought up John Maxwell. I just wanted to share with everybody that for any of you that listen to podcasts, I just listened this morning on my walk. Craig Groeschel, which I love his podcast. He's a pastor in Oklahoma that runs a big church, but he actually interviewed for about 40 minutes John Maxwell. I thought it was wonderful. So for just a good podcast to listen. I don't want to steal from Jim Collins since we're focused on good to great. But
no, but these are all like complementing each other. All these books and ideas, they complement each other. And just for many of you might not be aware of those what is level 5 leadership, and in the book I think Jim Collins was arguing with a lot of his researcher. He was into servant leadership. Yes, Kazi sir, go ahead please.
Rehnuma, I thought I would miss this opportunity. So quickly, let me relate to this idea that Coach started talking about, having the right people on the bus.
Right.
I would rather talk about how recently in America or even in Bangladesh, I help organizations to select the right people. So it was as recently as last week, I worked with a sales team, and the CEO was there, department heads were there. So we all know about Professor Carol Dweck's work of growth mindset versus fixed mindset and so on. So right now I'm working on this so that even those who are interviewing people, so they turn those growth mindset into the right kind of questions and observations, and within their probationary period, they watch them, how they speak. So they hire more people, telling them that you will be confirmed after 3 months. So it's a good learning opportunity for a lot of people, but not everyone is staying. So this is one. The second is for the US, I read this case study of Zappos. It's sad that Tony Hsieh is not anymore. But you know the story where after all the interviews and everything at Zappos, at the end they say, if you now don't join our company, you get this $2,000 or something. I don't know exact figure. Nobody ever did, I guess, such a thing. They were paid not to join the organization. If they joined, they will not get that extra money. Meaning, if you're the right guy, you don't want to take that money. You want to join the team and make money in a different way. So powerful ways to get the right people on the bus, I would say. Yeah, that's it.
It's a great point. I've had the privilege to work a couple of times with Zappos, and it's I concur that the loss of Tony Hsieh was significant, but boy, they have a great culture there. So.
Yeah, because of time, I'm shifting to the hedgehog concept. I found this concept very interesting, and it applies to everybody. So here the hedgehog, Jim Collins talks about the fox and the hedgehog, where the hedgehog knows what this animal wants to do, and whenever there is any problems or anything coming up, it can collect all its energy and then become like a ball. and centralize everything together, while the fox is like very clever, moving around from here and there, trying not, it doesn't have a focus. So coach, what was your take on this hedgehog concept? Why do you think the companies should focus on this area?
Because I really believe they really need clarity of direction and what they're going to put their time and resources into to be successful. He actually, interesting, Collins, one of the examples he does bring up in the book is about a cross-country team in both the boys and girls in Colorado at the high school level. And they had a concept where their theme was, we run best at the end. And what the concept was is, we run best at the end of practice. We run best at the end of a meet. We run best at the end of the season. And that mindset, that zeroing in on focus, led that program from a good program to all of a sudden they were the elite in the state. And so really deciding in business, and I think we take this as developing something where you can be the best in the world, is what they studied. And you might not necessarily be able to be the best in the world. That, like my basketball team was not going to be the best in the world, but you can embrace that concept that you're going to be the best at something and really doing it. Like what I gave the example of the cross-country team, we're going to run best at the end. So really establishing that. Then the second piece was, for businesses and for other situations, this wouldn't be, but the clarity of what drives you economically. And they really break that down into different aspects of where, like, for example, Walgreens, they were studying what was profit for every customer that came in. So they really were trying to get clarity of what their economic driver was and to stay in that circle. What they found is businesses that lost perspective, and they gave a few examples where they were in one thing and then they would change CEOs and they would go into a completely different thing, like and it really became a struggle for them because they lost their hedgehog concept. And then the last part is, whatever you're really involved in, that you have passion for it, that you're really, your heart and soul are into it. They even give up, I'm not someone that believes in smoking cigarettes. I think it's bad for it. But Philip Morris is one of the companies that was a good to great. But what they said is their leaders and the people, they were passionate about the tobacco industry. Now, right or wrong, for me, it was a wrong thing because I'm not into tobacco and I think it's unhealthy. But the concept is if you have that passion and belief in what you're doing, that is extremely important in having success. In closing, it would be that laser focus. And that's what they found with these successful companies that went from good to great, is they stayed in their hedgehog concept, where the other companies traditionally did not.
Yeah, and you can also transfer this whole hedgehog concept to your personal leadership style as well. So what are you really good at? What can you uniquely offer to the world? Instead of whatever is going on the trend, jumping into those bus, try to go see inside within yourself. So I think that can be applied to many of you here as well. Like whenever you're doing something that you're passionate about, and you feel that is the drive that I'm going through, and often the economic engine. Many Bangladeshis and back home used to tell me, like, why are you doing this Heroes for All? What are you gaining from it? And it was not the money or anything. It was, what difference can I make? What kind of potential that I can build in young people? So all those things were my main focus. It wasn't always, the career is not always the economic engine, but yes, of course, I have to look into the sustainable model. So through trainings, through apprenticeship, peer mentoring programs, those are my career engine. So those are the economic engine, but it is focused on the basic things we do. So we have to focus on our core values, what we are best, and what can you offer to the world. So if you can think about that, what can you individually offer to the world? Steve Jobs, why was he great at what he's doing? Apple knew what they're doing. They did not jump from one boat to another, but they knew that they're going to offer a computer in your pocket that will be a part of your life. So that is the experience they wanted to offer, and they created that culture of bringing those people who believed in that mission. So I think this is such a strong concept. Anyone have any reflection on the hedgehog concept that you have seen in your life or in any of the organizations, or what is your take on it?
Well, it reminds me when Coach talks about your personal mission statement.
Right.
That's what it kind of reminds me of, especially what can you do to be the best in the world at? I mean, what is your unique contribution that you can make that nobody else can? I guess that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Having that personal mission statement is key for that laser focus.
Definitely. And also the people in your organization, those who are working for you, you should have to implant this idea, hedgehog concept, to them. Like, do you feel for this cause? If they're just like, okay, 9 to 5, I will come here, I'm just coming here for the money and then I leave, they don't have the passion or they don't have the reason, your organization is not going to sustain. You have to have a strong meaning to be part of that organization or the company. So I think everybody should read this book. This has so much gold nuggets there to take from. And I think the coach, you were talking about the flywheel concept.
Yep.
So I think this is the ground. I'm just creating all these things, the level leadership, 5 leadership, first who, then what. It's about the people. Confront the brutal facts. That is one thing that although we are not going to spend too much, but I think it's also important, like ask the right questions. What is working for you? What is not working for you? The brutal facts. For example, at the beginning in February, American government didn't want to give the brutal facts that COVID is here. And this is going to create havoc in the whole world. And when they did not confront the brutal facts right on time, that is why we are now ended up with 400,000 people dying right now. So in organizations also, you have to, at the very beginning, we need to confront the brutal facts and then handle it right there, then and there. And we talked about the hedgehog concept and then the culture of discipline. So coach, why do you think all these things are important for getting that momentum?
Well, as you keep going, and I'll share, the culture of discipline is having the discipline of mind in what actions that you consistently take. You can give an illustration. A lot of people, we just got past New Year's, and so many people are now with New Year's resolution that I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And he gives a great example in the book because Jim Collins' wife ended up being an outstanding triathlon. She won the Ironman in Hawaii once. And one of the people that they looked at won the Ironman. His name, I believe, was Steve Scott. And he called it washing his cottage cheese, because he believed that by washing it, that he would actually take even a little more fat out. Now, they couldn't prove that scientifically, but the concept was really powerful, is that when you're getting the right people on your team and putting these things, we talked about in level 5 leaders, developing that hedgehog concept, then it's staying in that focus and doing it consistently, day in and day out. And that it's like when you talk about cutting down a tree. Well, maybe it took you 1,000 chops with the axe before, and somebody was saying it was the 1,000th hit that did. Oh no, it was all of those hits that finally took the tree down. And that's what they're talking about with that flywheel momentum. Is it's a consistent action, day in and day out, zeroing in on your hedgehog concept that's going to lead to success. And that's where we can see this in our own personal lives. Why are so many people unfit in the world? Because they don't have that culture of the discipline, both mindset and action, to take consistent actions. One of the reasons that I've been able to stay fit, and I'm proud to say this, is because I have a discipline that I make an appointment every day with myself to exercise. And and now it's part of me. That's who I am. And that, I think that's really important as we're all going through, is who are you? John brought up about personal mission statement. I mean, that's why I'm always talking to leaders about, before you can lead others, you got to be able to lead yourself. So you have to have clarity of your vision, your values, what you believe in. You got to live it consistently if you're going to be a great leader.
Definitely. And I think there is no single moment of greatness in life. There is this accumulation of small pieces of what we are doing every day that leads us to that greatness. And it's for me too. Like now I'm having that disciplined life of waking up early at 5 a.m. in the morning, then having my warm water with honey and lemon to start the day, and then sleep right at 10 by 10 or 10:30. So no matter what's happening, everybody tells me like, you are such a boring person. Why are you living such a boring life? But I think that all these disciplined life is giving me renewed energy. So I think when a company also go through all these culture of discipline, it gives them that renewed energy. And it talked about the supporting the culture of discipline. What can you do? There were a few points there. So build a culture of freedom and responsibility. So each member of your team knows what they're doing, and also provide them that sense of freedom, that you're not always hanging behind their shoulder to look at what they're doing. They're always afraid of making mistakes and things like that. You have to also build a culture of freedom where they feel free to experiment. So that's one. And he also talks about right people on board. That is one we've already discussed. Build a strong culture of team culture, but not of a dictatorship. So that can also take the essence away from a great company. And exercise extreme focus, like the focusing on the hedgehog concept. And finally, create a list of stop doing list for an organization. What we should not do. So we have to create that list, what we should not do. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to waste the energy of my organizations in these areas. So things like that. This is so important, that it is not easy from going from good to great. It's a arduous path, but we have to work on it. And I think as there is this quote, like greatness is a matter of choice and discipline. So when you are, it's like you have to take it from a stoic approach. I think Kazi sir also is reading a lot about stoicism. So we have to take it from a stoic approach and move forward to it. So I would open the floor to because last few minutes, like what was your takeaway from all these discussion? Can you see yourself moving to that great position? Or if you are already in the great position, can you sustain through these concepts? So yeah, it's open to the panel.
I'll chime in.
Yes,
so
please.
I've taken 3 pages. Thank you very much. I've taken 3 full pages of notes. It's times like these that when we all get together, folks that are that have that drive and have that passion to serve and to lead others, it's important to me, and I've seen in many times, many occasions, that it's important that we spend time around other people like us to remind us, because it's easy to work hard, have those disciplines. That's not easy, but creating those disciplines, and then after a period of time, they can just become the everyday. It becomes the check the box.
Right.
And if you lose sight of that, not having that purpose and those that daily, when you get the opportunity for your feet to touch the ground, that's an incredible start to the day, right? We're going to be vertical and we're going to be able to do what we do. But outside of that, there has to be, it can't just be us individually. Life is a team effort. We have to be a part of And so
Exactly.
again, thank you very much. The 3 pages of notes, I will be reflecting on those
Thank
again.
you
this evening.
so much for sharing your perspective. It was really helpful for all of us. Thank you so much. And we will continue this kind of conversation. Kazi sir, thank you. Kazi sir, yeah.
Pleasure.
Do you have any last concluding
No,
remarks?
I mean, I'm thinking about my friends here who are thinking, who is this Sar, but culturally, this is so difficult. If somebody was even my Sar, whoever was my teacher, I have to add this Sar thing. So please pardon us for this cultural thing. Anyway, no, I felt, very inspired today because I still remember when I first came to know about the hedgehog principle, the hedgehog concept. And to this day, I mean, when people ask me to become a consultant, there can be more money, or not necessarily, but more something else in it. But I clearly know that what I'm really good at and what I really enjoy, and I was good at and I was enjoying teaching, but that long time back, I realized that my economy, the way I wanted to live my life, wasn't working. So I think that books, this idea completely, transformed and remains a North Star for me to always guide me. This I need to tell. Most recently, I've seen, maybe my last thought is they have added kind of ethics or something.
Mhm.
So that way, so okay, I'm passionate about this. Okay, I'm very good at it, but I'm not going to be the hero of a movie called Catch Me If You Can. Okay, I will later. I will later join FBI to help catch the crooks, the con artists. But the ethics cannot be forgotten. So this
Right.
is the other thing.
Thank
But
you.
the core remains really. It's assumed that it should be for a good cause. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
Of
you.
myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Coach, concluding remarks?
Well, I think the one thing that I think, first of all, I appreciate everybody coming on. We're going to continue to do this. We'd like to certainly stay in touch with you, so keep posted. And Rehnuma, would you be able to send the link to everybody as
Yes.
far as our questionnaire?
I will
We
send
appreciate.
and on the Facebook page, I would also welcome anybody if you want to add me in the LinkedIn or the Facebook page. I will put the questionnaires link both in my LinkedIn page, and Coach, I will send it to you. And
Okay.
then if you could take a little bit time to give your feedback on what leadership means to you, because me and Coach, we are working hard and researching on this book. So hopefully by next year, we will have this out to all of you. So yeah, and I would love to have all your input. So this book is not just for our reflection, but we want to include everybody's reflection in this book. Yes. So that's
my final thought would be this: is the one thing that I want to really encourage, and I don't think you'd be here if you didn't have interest in being a better leader, is that one of the things I really always talk to leaders about is, if you want to be a great leader, you've got to be a student of leadership. And so it's great that we had a wonderful group here that gave us different ideas, and because the